Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience and welcome to our CX Doesn't Have to Be Scary webinar. My name is James. I'm the Studios Director and Senior Project Manager here at 729 Solutions. We're thrilled to have you with us today. And I'd like to introduce you to our host, better late than never for today's session, Brandon Tidd. He's the lead solutions architect here at 729. Brandon has a wealth of experience with Zendesk and optimizing customer experience. He's helped countless companies just like yours turn CX challenges into success stories. During the webinar, please feel free to drop any questions you have in the Q&A section, and Brandon will do his best to answer as many as he can. Finally, we're offering a free consultation after the webinar. The registration page will open in your browser at the end of our session where you can sign up and take your CX strategy to the next level. Okay, let's get started, Brandon. Over to you.
Great. So for those of you who don't know, 729 Solutions is a full stack development shop. We connect all of the dots. So we worked a lot with Zendesk over the past decade or so. Myself personally have been involved with Zendesk for about that long. It's hard to believe. And excited to be with you here today. We are going to dive right in the income and talk about some of those scary trends that we hear, some of the things that we hear from our customers as to what stops them and them moving forward in their CX journey. And then we're going to talk about some best tips that you'd get inside of Zendesk. We're going to talk about AI and advanced AI. And then we're going to have a little bit of fun time, assuming there is some time at the end. But if you do have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A or the chat. And so we're just going to dive right in. And so the first thing we're going to talk about today is conquering those CX challenges. So a lot of times we hear from admins and agents alike that there is this fear of complexity, right? Zendesk simplifies CX with intuitive tools. So if you're not already a Zendesk customer, or even if you are, maybe you're hesitant to dive into macros because you're not sure about the terminology, or you're worried about putting a automation in that's going to completely wreck your configuration. The thing that we like to tell people is start small, but don't be afraid of the configuration. Zendesk is a very intuitive platform to use, and you're able to do a lot with the tools that they provide you out of the box. So the other thing that we hear a lot from customers is fear of resource constraints, is how we're always trying to do more with less, and how do we find the time to provide a legendary customer experience without getting lost in the tooling and without getting lost in the communication fodder. And that's where Zendesk automation and AI agents really free up the regular agents for complex issues, and allowing some of the password reset emails and other things that would be relegated to tier 1 support traditionally can now be handled programmatically or with the power of AI. And that's freeing up our agents and empowering our tier 1 agents that used to get caught day in and day out spending all their time answering those level questions. And it's freeing them up to pursue further education, become deeper subject matter experts in different areas, and then also allowing them to spend more time with customers and turning their CX centers from a cost center to a profit driver by allowing opportunities to have conversations about upsells and cross sells, and really empowering your CX teams to take their experience to the next level. And one thing that we hear a lot, especially when we bring AI into the conversation, is fear of impersonal interactions. Everybody has had a bad CX experience when it comes to shouting into the phone, representative, or otherwise trying to navigate the thresholds of an automated chatbot that has very limited in its knowledge base. So it's saying, I can't help with that, or worse, it's hallucinating and giving very stagnant responses. That is the AI of yesteryear. November 30th, 2022, when ChatGPT launched, it marked a paradigm shift for the customer experience industry. And Zendesk as a whole, over the past 2 years, has been pivoting towards providing not just chatbot experiences, because we've had chatbot experiences. You've had Zendesk Chat, you've had AI in the Zendesk Chat, you've had scoped search in the knowledge base for years. What's different now is that the generative component is actually getting intelligent. It's actually becoming contextually aware. It's actually able to do more things for the customer proactively and also for the agents. And we're going to talk about that today. And Zendesk also empowers your team to deliver efficient and exceptional customer experiences across the channels, whether you're chatting with a chatbot, whether you're talking to somebody on the phone, whether you're responding to an email or a form fill. Zendesk is going to bring all of that data in and proactively help you manage the line of communication in that life cycle of a customer across multiple platforms. I would love to see in the chat or the comments and questions how you're using Zendesk, what channels you're using, have you activated Zendesk messaging, or any questions that you have around just CX best practices. With that, we're going to move into some low-hanging fruit, as I call it, some easy wins for Zendesk admins that are spending their day in and day out just trying to keep their head above water and keep their teams functioning correctly, and maybe looking at making sure that their Zendesk instance is following all of the best practices. Maybe you've inherited a Zendesk instance and you're not really sure why certain triggers are set up this way, or you get an email every time something happens and you're not really sure why. So the first thing we want to talk about today is trigger order and why it matters. So Zendesk triggers, if you're not familiar, are event-based. So when a ticket is created and or a ticket is updated, those triggers are going to attempt to fire. And they're going to fire in order that they are listed from top to bottom. And so we want the higher priority triggers executing first. We want to move them up towards the top. Reordering that trigger impacts the ticket workflow and automation. And so you have to be really careful when you're considering what trigger order that you have listed in that screen. And then you want to regularly audit and help maintain it for optimal trigger organization. And so when we talked about the trigger order, we like to bucket these into 4 categories: triggers that set things, triggers that assign things, triggers that send notifications, and then triggers that are the exception or everything else. So if you spell it out, it's SANE, and that's how you keep yourself sane with those triggers, because you want to set things, and if you think about it, it makes sense logically. You want to set triggers and set ticket properties like urgency before you assign them out, because maybe you have something that gets automatically escalated to tier 2. And then you want to assign things before you send out any notifications. So if you are sending notifications to your agents, which is a whole separate conversation, because if your agents are living inside of Zendesk, then they don't necessarily need an email every time something happens inside of Zendesk, because it just becomes noise in their inbox. But if you have activation notifications turned on or assignment notifications turned on, you certainly want to assign the tickets before you send those notifications. And then the notifications are contextually aware. You want to make sure that you're sending the right amount of trigger notifications. And then everything else gets bucketed in your Salesforce integrations, your Jira connections, Slack integrations. Anything that is touching Zendesk that doesn't fall into one of the other 3 categories can generally be aligned to that 4th category in the bottom. And so the next thing we're going to talk about is conditional fields. And for those of you who don't know, this is one area where Zendesk really listened to the customers, right? So Zendesk wanted, back in the day, Zendesk started with just having regular ticket fields and you couldn't condition them. And then from there, somebody developed an app that allowed for conditional fields. And they said, that's a really good idea. So they took that app and they took the feedback from their users that said, we really want the ability to add this conditional field in, and they baked it into the product. They took the app framework and they absorbed it into the product. I'm not sure why my slide's not advancing, but I do have a slide for this. It's coming up next as soon as my Google Slides wakes up. And so, again, we're blaming Halloween for all of that. And so conditional fields give you the ability to streamline data collection based on the user input, either for your end users or for your agent. So when you're thinking about things like products, if you have product models that you can say step 1, step 2, step 3, or product 1, product 2, product 3, and then variants of that. So maybe product 2 has 3 different SKUs, but product 3 only has 2 different SKUs. You can say, I'm going to select product 2 first, and then conditionally pop that next field for additional context. Another good example of this is, what are you reaching us about? Is it billing support? Is it technical support? Based on their selection, it's going to have different paths. Whether you are asking for billing support, you're going to go down one set of sub-questions versus technical support, you're going to go down a set of another potential conditional requests. And so having those conditional fields really allows you to consolidate everything onto one single form, and then not inundate the user, be it the agent or the end user, with irrelevant information. You don't need a nested field with 400 conditions or 400 options. You can have it broken out into different chunks. And my favorite hack on this is in the dropdown, if you select other, if nothing makes sense and you want to give somebody an out to say, well, it's none of these, none of the above, or other, if somebody selects other, you could have it be a conditional field. It says, okay, if it wasn't one of those, what was it? And then you monitor that field in reporting to make sure that you're accurately capturing data. So it's either something's missing, you have a blind spot, right? Or people are choosing other when they should be choosing another option, and they're not choosing another option either because they can't find it, or they don't understand that that's the option they should be choosing. So either way, it's going to give you valuable information, and you can make that a required field. So if they choose other, it's not going to let them submit the request unless they fill out what that was, and then you can review that. So ultimately here, we're trying to reduce manual data entry and improve ticket accuracy. And it's going to enhance the customer experience with relevant data and relevant collection points to provide valuable insight for better decision making. And even if you are only collecting your information via email right now or by a phone call, conditional fields can still help your agents click down the right path so they don't have a bunch of required fields that are irrelevant to the request that was just made. Again, if you have any questions on any of this, any comments, feel free to drop those into the Q&A and chat. Otherwise, we're going to keep going and talk about the third element of this, and that is self-service. So before we get to the ticket, Zendesk says if a ticket has been created, we've failed out of self-service. Our bots and our AI automation and our self-service have all failed because that end user has requested to be speaking to a human, bringing the human into the loop or talking with an agent. And there are cases for that, right? We're never going to automate 100%. Even if we, under a best case scenario, using AI, using the best self-service forms, we're striving to get 80% automation. If we can get 80% deflection automation and really keep your team protected for those 20% of conversations, that's really going to be what we're looking for in terms of maximum optimization and maximum efficiency. Because you don't want to offer only self-service, because then your customers have the ability to churn when they can't actually talk to somebody to resolve their issue. But with self-service, it's going to give you a first line of defense that's going to allow you to try to understand the context of why somebody's reaching out to you, as well as trying to understand and capture information about what's relevant to their world. So we start with self-service as an option, and then back into conditional fields that if we have failed out of self-service, we can at least capture the right information with conditional fields. And then if all else fails, we can bring that human into the loop to start that conversation. And so, again, we're reducing the agent workload and improving response times, curating comprehensive and easily searchable knowledge-based articles. And the thing that I like to talk about when we're talking about building help center content is using clear and concise language with visual aids. You've got to really talk to all of the different user experiences. People are visual learners, people are auditory learners, some people are try it out learners, right? And so manipulating your content to not only talk in the style of your customers. If your customers use the term widget, use the term widget in your help center to align on that keyword match. And then also another thing that we see a lot of folks failing to do is promoting help center through multiple channels. If you are sending emails, make sure you have in your signature to put a link to your help center. If you're talking to somebody on the phone, don't forget to remind them, hey, next time, make sure you check out our help center for all the information about how we can help you find the right information. And of course, that only works if you're regularly updating and maintaining that content so it doesn't go stagnant. So generative AI has been the talk of the town for the better part of a year now. And Zendesk was very careful with how they rolled out. They have an enterprise partnership with OpenAI, which is the company behind ChatGPT. And they have been very careful because we've heard horror stories of hallucination where the chatbot will offer a car for $1 or say a refund is eligible when they're not eligible for a refund. And so Zendesk really wanted to measure thrice and cut once before unleashing AI to end users. And we saw that evolution of moving from only helping the agents to very, very selectively helping the end users. And now we're starting to see the next iteration of that with smarter chatbots that are really using AI on the back end to really understand where the customer's request is coming from and what they're trying to ask for, to offer messaging solutions and content from your help center that is relevant to what that customer is actually looking for. And one of our customers, Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad, deployed generative AI last year. And this is the AI, what we're talking about now, just to be clear, is the AI that comes with the professional suite. It is the AI that is included with your package if you're using Zendesk messaging. So we're leveraging generative AI to enhance customer interactions with personalized responses, where it's going to take on a friendly or almost playful persona, and it's going to take real world conversation that the end user is asking about, like, I can't find my order confirmation, or how do I get my tickets? What if I missed the train? These are questions that traditionally you'd have to ask in a very specific way to get a very specific help center article. But thanks to generative AI, what we can do is have the ability for the customer to ask whatever they want and have the AI search the knowledge base based on that lookalike answer. So maybe they mistyped the word confirmation. Maybe they said, where is my ticket confirmation or my order confirmation? Previously, we'd have to code for all of that. Now the AI is smart enough to know that, oh, they're looking for their confirmation number. And we can even link out to their ticketing platform through the API to look up their ticket information and pull that back in. So when I tell you that it was game changing for this railroad to not have to take that requester, talk to the human, and have that requester go into the ticketing platform, type that confirmation number in, copy and paste it back to the end user and send them another copy of it, or just tell them to look in their spam folder. It was literally game changing for this railroad, fundamentally changed the way they thought about support and handled support, and it freed up their agents for more complex issues like ticket reassignments, where somebody's had to reschedule their trip, or somebody wants to rent a coach car and they want to know more about how they can book a party on the train. The bottom line is that improved efficiency leads to faster response times, which leads to increased customer satisfaction. You know, that CSAT number that everyone's always chasing. It's all about speed and efficiency. And if we can streamline the data collection and analysis, we can provide valuable insights. So now, for the first time, they're starting to understand how people are talking to the bot to allow them to adjust and update their AI answers to reflect the way people are asking questions. And ultimately, CVSR is delivering exceptional customer experiences using Zendesk, and it's also a really fun train ride if you're ever in the Cleveland area. So all this is leading up to Zendesk's big announcements earlier this month at their first annual AI Summit in New York, where they've talked about advanced AI and updates to the advanced AI module. So this is above and beyond. This is an upgrade to your Zendesk experience on a per license basis, but it's going to give you access to tools that are going to help you make your agents even more efficient. The first thing that comes out of that is using generative AI to improve agent efficiency with content summarization. So at any point when you are on a ticket, you can say, summarize this ticket. And if you've got a back and forth conversation going with multiple parties that's been escalated to tier 2, tier 2 can summarize that ticket and get the gist of everything that's happened in that ticket without having to read through the entire ticket. It also allows agents to tone shift their responses. So if you're typing in shorthand form, or you've got a misspelling of a word, or an end user is really frustrating you because it's the 4th time they've asked the same question, and you're like, look, for the 4th time, this is how you do this thing. You have the ability to use the magic pencil to then tone shift that and make that more professional, and it'll turn your frustrated keyboard confidence into perfect customer service speak. Dear valued customer, thank you so much for reaching out to us. Here are the 4 steps that you need to take to resolve your inquiry. Please let us know if you have any additional questions. And it's just magic to watch it take shorthand, misspellings, and things that an agent is not without a bounds by saying, but just a frustrated agent is always going to be more, or an overwhelmed agent is always going to be more terse, more short, more direct with an end user. And that tonality might not be in line with your brand and your expectations. And so having that ability to tone shift, not only tone shift, but also expand inside of that composition window, whether you're writing an article or responding to a request, that's really game changing for agents. And then macro suggestions that automate repetitive tasks. So what Zendesk Advanced AI is going to do is it's going to monitor all of the things that your agents aren't responding to with a macro, and it's going to say those 6 responses look similar. So it's going to homogenize those and generate a brand new macro that doesn't exist, and it's going to tee it up for your admins to be able to review and edit and QA before releasing to agents. So once a month, after it learns how your customers and agents interact, it's going to suggest 5, 6, maybe 7 macros that say, hey, here are the things that your agents are manually responding to today that we don't have a macro for. And we thought you'd like a macro, so we created one for you. And one thing that where we see this really playing in is when agents will try to go back and find how they responded to a customer previously, like, oh, I answered this question last week. Let me go take 10 minutes, find that ticket, and figure out how I answered this question before. Now AI is doing that work for you. And, of course, all of these features are leading to faster response times and improved customer satisfaction. This is in addition to intent modeling, sentiment detection, brand new entity detection. So intent detection is I need to reset my password. whereas entity detection is going to go so far as what model number they're referencing and pulling up a SKU based on the model number. Really, really powerful tools in the ever-evolving toolkit that is advanced AI. I'm going to pause here for any questions. James, I know that we had a couple of questions that came in with the registrations. I don't know if you want to touch on either of those or a few of those.
Yeah. So the first one that came in from the registrations were, I'm a new admin. What's the first thing I should do?
Ooh, call us. No, just kidding. The first thing that I recommend any admin does is check the business rules. Really get a good understanding of what triggers and automations do, why they are doing what they're doing, and why really do an audit of those. And of course, this is something that we can help with, but just clicking through and just really understanding, looking at the Zendesk documentation for how triggers work, how automations work, those are going to be the two things that drive a lot of the interaction challenges that exist inside of Zendesk. You know, one of our chief complaints is all these emails are going out or our customers aren't getting our emails. It's going to be a trigger or an automation that's driving that. So if you can start there and then back into other things like macros and service level agreements, the understanding the triggers and automations, I think, is number one, is where I would start.
Yeah. And I think this is a good point to say that, for those of you that are new admins, using the free consultation landing page and registering for your free consultation, it's a great opportunity to kind of describe your specific use case with Brandon and go over that, kind of go over the best practices for, setting up, your Zendesk instance for, your new admin experience.
One other thing.
Yep, go ahead.
That really quick is that training.zendesk.com and the Zendesk support community are great resources. When I was first starting out as a new Zendesk admin, I was asking a lot of rookie questions inside of those spaces, and people were very generous in sharing their knowledge. And so one of the other hats that I wear as I'm a Zendesk community moderator is we like to give back to the community that helped me get to where I was. But there's a treasure trove of information available in those archives. And sometimes, even today, I'll have to go back through and reference an article that I looked at in the support article to get an explore recipe or to figure out why a trigger is misfiring with omni-channel routing. Really, I can't speak highly enough about that Zendesk community.
Yeah, that's a great resource. The other question, Brandon, that came in during registration was about reporting. Are there any best practices for reporting on data?
Yeah. So Peter Drucker, one of my favorite quotes, if you don't measure it, you can't change it. And so understanding where your holes are, understanding what is driving your ticket volume, because nobody ever reaches out to customer support just to say hi, right? I mean, it would be nice if they did, but nobody ever, there's always a reason, there's always asking a question, they always need support, which is why they're contacting support. And so tracking either on the front end in your end user facing form or on the back end on your agent facing user interface to be able to select what was the primary reason for this request, and then reporting on that, building a report and tracking that over time, you can really start to understand if there's an outlier, that there's a lot of people that are needing help with this part of the process of our system versus some of the other things where we think they are. And there's always a fun little experiment of how much the predictions are from the C-suite and from the leadership team versus what's actually driving the ticket requests coming in. And so getting your hands wrapped around not only that, but ticket prioritization are crucially beneficial to understanding where your self-service is failing, where your support documentation is failing, where your chatbot is failing, and then leveraging that to improve over time. And one of the things that we hear a lot is, well, sometimes customers will reach out for more than one reason. Customers will have like 3 different issues going on at the same time. How do we categorize that? And very simply, it's the 80-20 rule. If you can get the primary driver, what was the main thing of those 3 things that they asked about? What was the main thing that was driving that initial catalyst for conversation? If you capture that every time, the law of averages will work in your favor, and the important things will bubble up to the top. Any other questions, either from our live audience or from the registration?
That looks like that's everything, Brandon.
Yeah. And so the one thing I'll leave you with is that this environment is rapidly evolving. They're every day, and we're on the frontier of it, and every day, literally every day, there's something new to explore. Literally 30 minutes before we jumped on this call, ChatGPT announced general availability for search. So now you can use ChatGPT like Google to search for content on the internet and return generative replies based on that content. So I haven't even had a chance to play with that yet. But one of the things that we see generative AI being used for outside of the traditional customer service space is just creativity and experimentation. And we encourage everybody to find, if you don't want to do it yourself, if you're not the AI champion in your office, that's totally fine. Somebody there is a secret AI agent that is using ChatGPT on their phone to help them write that email, to ask them what they should do in their personal life. Somebody there is on board with AI, and your job is to find that person and give them the framework and the bandwidth to allow them to explore and test different prompts and different scenarios as it relates to your business. Because AI has the potential to enhance CX across industries. Zendesk's data models were trained specifically on customer experience, but they weren't necessarily trained on specific data about your industry. The knowledge that you have and the knowledge that your agents bring to every conversation can help further that experience. And then share your findings and have fun. And so in that regard, we've got a little experiment to leave you with, because it is Halloween. And you know, you may be going to a party after work today, and you may be asked to bring something. And so what we're going to do now is drop out of the presentation mode and drop into ChatGPT. For those of you who've never logged into ChatGPT, I would say right now, open a new tab, go to chatgpt.com. You don't even need to register anymore to use it, but you can, and you get more benefits out of the free registration. But one of the things earlier this year that they did was they made custom GPTs available to the masses. So you don't have to have a paid account to use a custom GPT. So GPT, generative pre-trained model, is what OpenAI, all of this generative AI is, right? You're chatting with a model that has been pre-trained on data, in this case, all of humanity. But sometimes that's overwhelming. Sometimes that is more information than you need to talk to, or sometimes it doesn't have the context that you need. And so you can create, as a paid ChatGPT user, you can create custom versions of ChatGPT that are set up to handle specific tasks. I've created a few of them because I'm what we would call a ChatGPT power user. So everything from writing bedtime stories for my kids to helping me around the house. I had a wagon break yesterday and I didn't know what to do. So I took a picture of the screw and said, what do I need to do to fix this? It gave me really detailed instructions, including the part number that I needed from Home Depot. So these are all really good use cases, but the one that I want to play with today was made by one of my colleagues, Kyle Shannon, and it's called Sin City Sipper. And so what this does is it takes input from you, and it could be any input that you want, and it's going to make a drink themed based on that input. So we're going to say it's Halloween, and spelling is optional, but I'll try to spell that right. Let's make a spooky spirit for a party later tonight. And just like that, it's going to go off. And oh, well, let's try that again. Sometimes it just has to. There we go. Let's conjure up a sinister yet sensational Halloween cocktail to spook and delight your party guests. Witch's blood. We got vodka, pomegranate juice, cranberry juice, orange liqueur, a lime, and a blackberry liqueur for a bleeding effect. This actually really sounds good. And dry ice optional. So you want to rim the glass, prepare the drink, add the blood and the dry ice, and this is kind of what it would look like. And you can see here that it even has the Witch's Blood by Sin City Sipper. So you could take that and let's say, okay, what about a mocktail version? Because I have some kids coming to my party and they're already going to be hopped up on sugar. We don't need them also drunk. And so the Witch's Blood mocktail, it's now rewriting the entire recipe without leveraging the alcohol. And it's going to even create a friendly, an alcohol-free version of the image. So when I say play with it, yes, you can ask it to rewrite your email. That looks crazy good. I think we may have to stop by the store on the way home from work today. Some of that. So when I say play, this is what I'm talking about. And the purpose here is twofold. One, it's helping me plan for a Halloween party, but it's also helping me stress test the capabilities of OpenAI's newest models. What are they capable of? And how do I take that information? Like maybe you didn't know it could generate images. You could take that and for your next PowerPoint presentation, make a really cool image that is based on the subject matter. I heard a story anecdotally of one of my other colleagues is in the self-storage business, and he was pitching a new client for storing all of their equipment, and he made an AI-generated song in a tool called Suno, all about why they should use his company. And based on that alone, he won the book of business. So there is really an amalgamation of the CX world and the larger marketing world that is at play with some of these models that not only inside of Zendesk do you have these ability to use, but also outside of Zendesk in the real world, you could have a lot of fun with these applications.
Well, thank you, Brandon. I believe that is everything you have for us today. Is that accurate?
It is, and I would just like to call out that for existing customers, please take advantage of the free consultation survey link that's popped up at the end of this webinar. We really love helping de-scarify CX for you in your own instance, and everybody's got that one thing that's bugging them. And so today of all days being Halloween, I like to take my magic wand and wizard hat and try to make all your problems go away.
Brandon, I'm glad you were able to iron out your technical difficulties today. It was brutal, but you made it. And thanks for shedding some light on everything from AI to Zendesk to customer experience. We always appreciate it.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Thanks, everybody.